Nurses are not coming in with the competencies they need. Once they get here, they're not being supported in a way that lets them elevate to where they need to be and keeps them engaged in the profession. For me, that was like the wake up moment. So we began to work together and start building out. The mission of Archer Review is to empower healthcare learners and leaders to provide the best care and really engage in the educational experience across the lifespan. So whether you're a nurse, a doctor, an allied health professional, we believe the learning never stops.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to a new nurse or nursing student who feels overwhelmed?
My piece of advice is twofold. First, it's that you shouldn't know everything. Get it out of your head that you think you need to know it all. And the fact of life is that nothing that is worth it has ever been easy. All of the worthwhile endeavors in our life, they are hard. So embrace the hard. Like, you were made for this. You're going to do it. And it's going to be so amazing once you get there. You are going to be so proud of yourself. I did not intend to become a nurse right from the get-go. My dream was to be a ballerina.
I love it. I love it.
Welcome to the Nurse on Purpose podcast, where we challenge media stereotypes about nursing and spotlight the incredible and diverse roles nurses play in healthcare. I'm your host, Nello. Every week, I'll be joined by a nurse who is reshaping the narrative. From frontline care to leadership, education, innovation, and beyond. Our aim is to show the world that nursing is so much more than what we see on TV. Together, we'll explore how we can collaborate with media and other stakeholders to create authentic and inspiring portrayals of nurses. Let's begin the conversation and ignite change, one episode at a time.
Hi guys, welcome back. Today on the Nurse on Purpose podcast, we're going to be talking about the future of nursing education and how we prepare new nurses to step into the real world with confidence. Morgan Taylor is a nurse educator and leader at Archer Review, which is a company that is dedicated to bridging gaps in healthcare education. During the pandemic, Morgan noticed a major shortcoming in how new nurses were being prepared, and she took action. Since then, she's helped lead the charge in creating a more supportive, compassionate, and practical approach to nursing education. Her work goes beyond test preparation. It's really about building competence, confidence, and community. So it gives me great pleasure to have my fellow pediatric nurse practitioner on the podcast. You're welcome, Morgan.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you here. So today we're really going to be talking about your journey, because that's how I like to get started. So your journey in nursing, especially in pediatric nursing, and how you're now working with Archer Review to help reshape nursing and healthcare education. Okay. So let's get started from the top, from the basics. Can you kind of share your journey into nursing? What drew you to nursing, especially pediatric nursing?
Absolutely.
And how did that journey kind of shape your path to becoming a nurse practitioner?
Okay, so yeah, you said start from the top. Let's start from the very top, which for me is acknowledging that I did not intend to become a nurse right from the get-go. It wasn't like my dream growing up or anything. My dream was to be a ballerina. And I don't say that. I don't say that in a like, I was 5 and I wanted to wear tutus. I was very seriously training to dance in the New York Ballet. I wanted to go and be a classically trained ballet dancer. And then I had a really bad back injury. So I have a stress fracture in my like L4 vertebrae. So low down in my back. And that prevented me from moving forward with that. And I had to pivot and think, okay, what else is there? I had definitely been exposed to the healthcare system quite a bit growing up. And I thought, okay, nursing seems reasonable. I feel like I kind of know that. I like working with people. I like working with my hands. I very much wanted to be active, not sitting around at a desk. So that seemed to check most of the boxes, right? And I said, okay, let's go for that. So I went for undergraduate. I went to the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and got to go to school on the beach. It was really quite a lovely place to go to school. And totally fell in love with that impact that nurses can have. I'll share additionally, some of my motivation was seeing the impact nurses could have on the entire family unit beyond just that one patient or client that they were caring for. That was a big motivator for me. And I think a little bit of what maybe pushed me towards pediatrics, because there is that whole family unit. We see that with most people, but it's a whole different level when you've got, a baby or a young child, and there's some complicated family dynamics sometimes. It's such a unique way that you can impact many people and the trajectory of that whole family. So also, kids are just way cooler than adults. Okay. They're so much more fun. I'm sorry. They're the best.
Every unit is just prettier. Like, let's be honest.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? It's, and another layer is like their level of resilience. Kids recover from things that adults absolutely never would recover from. They are so cool what their little bodies can do. It's really fascinating from like a medical perspective, and then heartwarming from a bedside care perspective. So you get a lot of joy and satisfaction in working with kids.
You totally like me as a pediatric nurse, though.
Oh yeah.
Joyful and bubbly, and you just exude that energy that children want to be around. And I think I also found my niche there, because I was like, I love kids. Like, there's something about, I fall in love with them, right? Like,
I know.
It's not just me taking care of them in a clinical setting, like patient to nurse setting, but I just feel this just connection. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want you to be better so bad. But they bring so much joy. Every day you go to work, you're like, I'm so grateful that I get to see these faces every day.
I completely agree with you. I'm definitely drawn to kids as well. The resilience, the outlook, the things that they can do is really rewarding to work with, for sure. And I had the chance to work with them in quite a few different areas, because my first job as a new nurse was in what we called the Children's Resource Unit at Duke University Hospital. And that was a fancy term for, it was the float pool, but it was all kids. So I floated to the floor, to the PICU, to the cardiac ICU, and ultimately to the emergency department, where I spent a good amount of my time, especially starting in 2020 when we were facing the pandemic. And that's the only point in my career where I had to also work with adults. So reaffirmed for me, adults were not for me, but also gave me a lot of good hands-on experience.
Yeah. At what point did you go and pursue your DNP?
Yeah. So I started my DNP, it was 2021 when I started working on it. And I chose to go to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, so that I could ultimately pursue a dual track acute and primary care certification. That wasn't something that was offered at Duke. So I knew I wanted to look elsewhere for that. And then down the road, I ended up dropping the acute care certification because I fell so in love with primary care. Which wasn't what I thought was going to happen. I was like, PICU, emergency department for life. I love the acute, the adrenaline. And I think then I got into my first primary care rotation, and I saw healthy kids for the first time in like a decade. And I was like, oh my goodness, you're precious. You're not on ECMO. You're not on a ventilator, like things. This is so, and it was, I was worried it wasn't going to challenge me intellectually. And I found there's this whole other side with primary care, looking at the bigger picture and the longevity of caring for this little human that's going to grow into our future. And I found that so infinitely more rewarding, and just really, really dove into that. So I ended up becoming a primary care pediatric nurse practitioner, and I love it.
Yeah, and just how it weaves that community health aspect, the determinants of health, because now you're looking beyond their diagnoses or whatever it is they're coming in for, and you're considering like their nutrition and what they're listening to, their use
Mhm.
of, screen time, everything is all, kind of woven into that primary care field. And it's like you have to be in their house, in their lives, and in
Yep.
every aspect of whatever it is that, pertains to their health. I love primary care. I always loved primary care, to be honest. I really never liked the hospital, if I'm honest.
Oh, see, I loved the hospital when I was there. I think I was like I didn't know what else was out there. And I think I thought the hospital was going to be my next like 40 years. I was going to be
Yeah,
somebody who lived and breathed emergency intensive care medicine. And then I got out of it and I was like,
mhm.
oh, there
Mm,
are other things
another
out there.
one out there, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
They both have their place. And I'm ultimately so grateful for both perspectives because I do think that sometimes we draw a line between primary and acute, and it's
Mhm.
actually a big gray area, right? Where primary care influences how acute your condition will
Yeah,
become,
absolutely.
what your healthcare trajectory will be. And then we also need our acute care providers
Mhm.
to be cognizant of the social determinants of health, our
Yeah.
vaccination status, our overall picture, and some of those more quote unquote primary care responsibilities. So there has to be kind of like a bi-directional dialogue there.
Absolutely, for sure. So let's talk about Archer Review, right? Because
Okay.
you are the chief nursing officer at Archer Review. Tell us what Archer Review's mission is, what it is that you do at Archer Review, and how that transition was from clinical practice to like educational tech, right?
I love it. Yes. Once again, this happened by accident. Nothing in my life has gone according to my
As
plan.
it does, as it does. Yeah.
So the mission of Archer Review is to empower healthcare learners and leaders to provide the best care and really engage in the educational experience across the lifespan. So whether you're a nurse, a doctor, an allied health professional, we believe the learning never stops.
Yeah.
And we're here to engage and partner with you in a way that lifts you up and brings you along that journey. For me, this started in the time that I worked in the emergency department.
Yeah.
Again, the only time in my career I had adult patients. And it was really hard. It was a challenging time in nursing's history. As we know, this is, 2020, mid 2020. And throughout that year, it was very noticeable that the new nurses coming to join us were not being supported. They weren't ready for what they were walking into. They didn't have enough clinical hours at the bedside because of what was going on out there in the world. And then when they got here, we didn't have the resources and support to really wrap around and lift them up. And this isn't breaking news to anybody. We've seen that there are challenges in the nursing workforce for quite some time. But for me personally, this was like my light bulb moment
Mhm.
of, oh my goodness, nurses are not coming in with the competencies they need.
Mhm.
And then once they get here, they're not being supported in a way that lets them elevate to where they need to be and keeps them engaged in the profession. So the most recent data is, I believe, 67% of nurses, they're out of here in 2 years.
In
Not
two
just stepping away from the bedside, they're leaving the
profession.
profession of nursing. And that is atrocious. We have got to do something about that. There are so many ways for nurses to really impact our communities, both at and away from the bedside. And if we don't support and nurture that entire educational cycle, they're going to leave and we're just going to keep ending up in this, downward spiral of not having enough nurses, therefore not being able to support our new nurses,
Yeah.
and it really compounding upon each other.
Yeah.
So all that to say, for me, that was like the wake up moment. I loved precepting new nurses as they were coming in, but it felt very repetitive, day in, day out, saying the same thing, not seeing progress at a bigger level. And that was when I really started digging in, like what are some ways that I can get involved? I didn't know what it was that I was looking for, but I got very lucky that I connected with our wonderful founder, Karthik Kuduru. He's a medical doctor that was seeing some similarities for residents and new medical students, and wanted to partner with a nurse on some of these challenges. So we began to work together and start building out. It started with a platform. How are we going to reach people? And it needed to be online and accessible and digital. And then how was it going to connect to different points in their journey? So the point we started with was licensure exams. When you're going to take your board, your NCLEX, or if you're a doctor, your USMLE, it's a very high stakes moment with a lot of anxiety. How can we plug in and support right there? And we've kind of expanded outwards from that inflection point so that now really I look in 3 buckets. Let's help get you into nursing school. Let's support you throughout. Let's make sure you pass your exam so that you can become a registered nurse or an LPN. And then let's support your journey after that, continuing education, certifications, advanced practice. Let's pull you along that journey, elevate you so that you're engaged and a part of our profession for a long time.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So you must be coming up with educational tools that are constantly being updated. How do you develop, what is the process of development for these tools? And how do you determine what content is most beneficial, not just for students, because there is a curriculum, but for people already in the workforce? How do you ensure that you're staying up to date with the current science, the current technology, so that these professionals are getting just what they need to succeed?
It's a great question, and it brings up other questions too, because how do we define that? People have different opinions and different modalities. And I mean, right now is the craziest time in ed tech with AI coming to play. There is just every day, there's something brand new and shiny, and it can be really alluring to look at all these bells and whistles of features here and there without really drilling into the meat and potatoes that lies underneath. What's the modality? What's the learning science, right? So a few different ways that things surface. And the first and most important is I'm listening. I'm out there at industry events, talking to students, seeing what they're talking about, and just trying to pick up on, number one, how are students learning? Right now, a big thing students want more of, and this is great, is they want to learn via a podcast. They are busy. They are on the go. They need a bite-sized bit of information they can grab onto on their walk to class. They do not need to sit down and have a 3-hour video. That's cognitive overload. We're not going to retain that. Memory science, looking at micro lessons and spaced repetition, that consistently gets reported in the literature as the best way to retain. So how do we embed that into the platform? How do we make this a part of your everyday life so it's not a burden, but it's something that you just carry along with you? So all that to say, I think number one is you have to listen. You listen to the people who are using it, the students. What do they want? What do they need? And then another layer of that is, what does our faculty need? Let's not forget about our nursing faculty. They're an integral part of this whole picture. And we know that there's a shortage of educators out there to bring up our next generation of nurses. So I actually think one of the best ways we can use AI is alleviating some of their more cumbersome work so that they're freed up to be that face-to-face mentor to do what they do best and really engage with and guide these students instead of, spending 15 hours grading papers and sorting classroom assignments. Let's take that off their plate. AI is never going to replace our nurses and our nursing educators, if you ask me, but it can take some of the administrative burden off of our plates to elevate the scope in which we practice.
Yeah. Speaking of nursing education and AI, what are some trends that you foresee in nursing education, and how are you guys preparing to adapt to these changes?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing is personalized learning. It is not a one-size-fits-all solution anymore. I mean, I don't know, you can speak to your experience. For me, when I was in nursing school, it's here's this textbook and you will have exams once a week until graduation.
Yeah.
There was no level of personalization or even like, engagement there going on. And that's not acceptable anymore. We have much more sophisticated tools, ed tech, AI, that can engage and can personalize. So I think in addition to taking, spaced repetition, micro lessons, all of those best learning practices, we then need to layer AI on in a way that takes the content and molds it to the student. It monitors their progress and it adapts on a day by day basis to say, hey, this is an area that you're struggling. How can we nudge you forward in that way? One of the most interesting parts of memory science to me is, as humans, we're prone to study what we already are really good at because it reinforces and it feels good. I was always a cardiac girl. I loved the heart anatomy, and cardiovascular system was like so interesting. So that's what I'd be drawn to go study. But I was already performing in that area. I really should have been working on like neuro and GI. Those were kind of like weak points for me. So when we layer on this personalized learning, it can take these lessons in a very specific bite-sized way and feed them into a plan to optimize that student's learning pathway. And that's something, again, that reduces the burden of the faculty. They don't have to be study planning and mapping and assigning. That all happens in the background. Their role is now elevated. They can be that face-to-face mentor and guide that the students need so desperately.
That's amazing. You said before that because there's a nursing shortage, there's this idea that we just need to pump out more nurses, but you describe this as pouring into a leaky pipeline. What is it that is missing from the bigger conversation here?
Ooh, how much time do you have? Because this is not a short answer. There are quite a few things missing. There's not just one hole in our bucket. There's quite a few. People think, oh my gosh, we need to fill the pipeline. And that is one component. Of course, we need to elevate the nursing profession and drive interest and get students into school. So one thing Archer does, we get you prepared for your entrance exams. We help you get into that nursing program. But that is only one component, because we can flood that pipeline as much as we want. But if it pours into a bucket with 100 holes, then we end up with nurses who are leaving the bedside in 2 years. And this whole thing spirals, right? So what are some of those holes? Number one, burnout. We do not have enough support for our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses. The staff ratios, nurse to patient ratios, are often not where they need to be. Nurses get really tired really quick. And tired is an understatement, right? It's really a very different level of burnout. So that's something that needs to be addressed on the healthcare system side for sure. There's also a lot of workplace violence. That seems to get worse and worse. We just had a recent report from the NCSBN citing workplace violence and burnout as two of the top 5 reasons that nurses are leaving the bedside. And that's really, upstream. That's our healthcare system set up of what we need to address. One of the big holes that I think a lot about is how engaged are new nurses in the nursing profession from day one? How are we supporting their educational journey? I mean, I don't know about you. For me, the first year, maybe even 2 years as a nurse, massively overwhelming. You are really just like drinking from a fire hose. You're learning so much so quickly. And it's high stakes. So you're on edge. It's a very challenging time. And what we can do to lift students and novice nurses up in that stage, I think can make or break whether they remain with us in the nursing profession. So that's things like supportive new grad nurse residency programs that incorporate mindfulness and emotional intelligence, emotional regulation. Huge. You're working in an ICU dealing with life and death. You don't have that emotional regulation, you're going to be burned out really quickly. So how can we coach you on that? How can we integrate mindfulness into your 12-hour shift in a way to help you actually be more successful? I think that's huge. Secondly, you need mentorship. We need our preceptors to teach us how to do the things. And then we need our mentors to teach us everything else that wraps around that. How are we going to be carried through this journey? I think a big thing we can do, elevate what our continuing education looks like.
Right,
Stop doing continuing ed for the sake of like clicking a button and renewing your
right,
license.
right.
What are you passionate about? There's so many avenues and facets of this amazing profession. Where can you plug in and be engaged? What can you learn to continue down your path as a nurse?
Mhm.
That continuing ed can lead to certifications that elevate your career. Maybe you want to go to be an advanced practice nurse. Maybe you don't, but there are so many ways to keep growing,
Yeah,
and very clear data that shows us when we're engaged and growing, we're much less likely to want to leave our profession.
yeah,
We're happier because we're elevating ourselves.
yeah.
So I don't think we teach nurses how to do that or give them the resources to do that.
Mhm.
And that's a big thing that I have hopes to do at Archer Review, is to really engage with those novice nurses in a way that's supportive, that's uplifting, that gets them impactful education
Yeah.
along their whole journey.
That sounds awesome. It sounds like day one readiness when a nurse steps onto the floor that she doesn't feel out of her element or his
Mhm.
element, but feels ready, even though it's not perfect and there's still going to be a lot to guzzle down. But just walking in and having that, like you said, companion, right? In our previous conversation, we talked about the nursing school companion and having that companionship as you step onto the floor so that you're not feeling afraid, confused, like what to do next. And
Mhm.
before you get to the other side of that, you're ready to quit, right? So
Right.
somebody to just kind of hold your hand until you get through the hump, because there will be a learning
Mhm.
curve, regardless of just how wonderful you were as a student.
Yep.
It doesn't, you will still need to learn things that are new, systems and processes that are new.
Mhm.
Can you tell me if you have, or if you have a testimonial, if you've observed any like measurable outcomes or feedback from a student who has utilized Archer Review resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that comes to mind, just because it is so measurable, is how many students are actually passing that board exam, that NCLEX. And we are very, very, very proud to say that 99% of our students who go through and use our products are able to pass that board exam. I think traditionally people have thought of the NCLEX as kind of like a barrier, like I got to get
Mhm.
through this, horrible experience in order to go be a nurse. I've tried to embrace it as more, it's just one more step along your journey.
Right.
Cause you're going to keep learning and keep taking tests, even if you don't want to, for as long as you're in this profession. So really trying to frame up, hey, this is just one more step on your journey and we're going to do it together, I think is huge. I think there is also a huge, beside the numbers, the numbers are great, but there are a huge number of students who tell us, hey, I came to your webinars on testing anxiety. I came to your webinars on, teamwork and communication. And I felt so much more grounded, either going into my exam or day one as a nurse. I'm thriving because of what you offered at Archer. And to me, that's when we've set someone up for success. Like, not only have you passed your board, but you've developed like a toolkit of strategies to keep taking care of yourself and to really walk into this next chapter with that confidence, competence, and building community. Those are my 3 C's, right?
Absolutely.
We're confident, and we've got our team. It takes a village. Nursing is a team sport. So knowing to expect that, to ask for that, to be okay not knowing everything, but knowing who to ask,
Yep.
that will be the game changer for our next generation of nurses.
That's amazing. So nursing, then USMLE, then educators and social learning, you guys are doing a whole lot. I'm guessing you have a team of nurses or physicians that are teaching these courses and they continue to be updated on their skills and their knowledge base as
Yes.
well. Do you offer, like for, let's say, the NCLEX, do you offer a review course the way Fitzgerald offers a course? Or how, like, what is your process like? Is it a review course that people pay for? How does it work?
Yeah, good question. So I'll walk you through kind of from like basic to comprehensive. We've got
Mhm.
4 levels.
Okay.
Because one thing we haven't talked about yet is everybody's different. Not every nurse needs the exact same set of resources. Again, it's like that personalized learning that AI is really demanding of us.
Mhm.
So the most basic level of resource for any upcoming healthcare professional is practice questions. You need practice questions to get through school, to pass that exam, to get ready for your next chapter. So if you're a person who just needs to drill in on those on your own time, that's kind of level 1.
Right.
Level 2 is your kind of co-curricular video material. So that's for nursing. That's me. I'm in this very office and I'm just talking to you about nursing. I think what sets us apart is we are a casual, down to earth, realistic companion. I'm looking not to speak to you from above you, but with you, right? We're here to hold your hand and bring you through the journey. I really think a lot of people in academia overcomplicate things. We like to use a lot of words to explain something that's often quite simple. So we try to be those people who are going to take a complex topic, make it easier to understand, use a lot of analogies and metaphors to just get into it with you and walk you through. So that's layer 2, all your content that comes in those short little micro lessons. And then layer 3 is what you were talking about, the review course. So for us, it's 3 days. You come join us live on Zoom. We talk to you. It's a hefty 3 days. It's a lot of content to talk about. But we make it really fun. It's all gamified. We have polls going throughout where you can win prizes and you fill out a workbook, and it's a fun 3-day experience. And then our 4th level is personalized tutoring. So for some people, you've been through the review, you've done questions and videos, but you're not feeling ready for day 1. You're worried about this. You don't know how to apply to that job. You need a little more focused preparation in one area or the other. So that's our team of nursing educators who are here and ready to sit down with you one-on-one. We do 30-minute and 60-minute sessions where we can just drill into what your needs are and figure out what it is we need to do to walk that journey with you.
Right. Awesome. You guys have so much for nurses, nurse practitioners, medical students, just so much to offer. And I'm grateful that there is a nursing school companion, because I think that's really where a bulk of the need is, right? From your bio classes to the anatomy to the chemistry to all of those courses that can just feel so overwhelming, right? And
Yes.
you have only one professor, and that professor really can't handle office hours in the same way anymore and just with the same personalization. So really grateful that this exists. I wish it existed when I was a student.
Same.
Boo for not existing when I was a student.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. It's yeah, we need that personalized learning. We need that adaptation to what our unique needs are. And you're right, the faculty, they're human. They, if you have 200 students in a class,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to get to know each of them and mentor and guide. So, yeah.
Okay, so my final question before we move into our media portion is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a new nurse or nursing student who feels overwhelmed, who feels underprepared, and maybe to a nurse educator who also feels the same, and
Yeah.
maybe just kind of how they can connect with Archer Review?
All right. So my piece of advice is twofold. First, it's that you shouldn't know everything. Get it out of your head that you think you need to know it all. I'm actually much more afraid of a student who thinks they know it all because they don't. I would much rather have the student who says, hey, I'm a novice here. I'm ready to learn. I'm going to have a lot of questions. Let's go. Secondly, upon that, asking those questions, acquiring that knowledge, getting to where you feel confident and competent is not easy. I think there's this perception as we scroll on social media that we're all skipping to the good part. And it's like, a song and dance, there's music going on. It's so easy and great. And the fact of life is that nothing that is worth it has ever been easy.
Nothing.
All of the worthwhile endeavors in our life, they are hard.
Yeah.
So embrace the hard. Like, you were made for this. You're going to do it. And it's going to be so amazing once you get there. You are going to be so proud of yourself. I would love to walk along the journey with you. You can find all of our resources at archerreview.com. We're on all of the socials at Archer Nursing. And, you can reach out to us anytime. This is hard, but we're here to do it with you.
Yeah, it's hard, but nurses do hard things.
We do hard things.
Thank you for that. All right, we're going to move into our media section, rolling our question and our game into one. If you have watched any shows in the past, what are your thoughts about how nurses are portrayed? And then I will pick your category real quick.
So my thought is that we are not portrayed enough. Oftentimes you go and watch, like Grey's Anatomy or The Pitt is the one everyone's talking about now. And I'm like, there's tons of residents, there's tons of doctors. Where are the nurses? Where are we? Like, that doctor is ambulating the patient and emptying their bedpan and like operating the MRI scanner. I'm sorry, but that is not how it works. And I mean, I love my MD counterparts, but they're looking at it, they're like, I don't know how to operate an MRI scanner. What is this TV show pointing to? I really, really wish there was a show by nurses for nurses that showed what our day-to-day shift is like. And MDs are a part of that. I'm not trying to say they're not, but in the media, it's just never about the nurse. We never are portrayed, and our significance is so downplayed.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance, girl. I'm going to give you a chance. You're going to come up with that show that you're talking about. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's do this. Okay, your category is, you won't believe this. This is different. It's a thriller.
A thriller. Okay. A thriller.
A spy thriller.
Okay. Oh, a spy. I like that. I'm a big James Bond fan. So I'm going to go kind of like secret agent here. New nurse, passion for teaching and empowering nurses. But really, has this dream of being a secret agent. So she's working in a busy hospital and notices all of the new grad nurses are struggling. They're not confident and competent. They're just like feeling really alone, feeling isolated, getting really burned out, second guessing themselves. And, that leads to patient care suffering. So she's like, okay, something's not right. I'm gonna put on my metaphorical trench coat, like, a white coat, but we've got some secret pockets. We're gonna start investigating here. We're going down the spy secret agent rabbit hole. And the nurses are really missing the key to unlocking their potential. They don't have that support and that mentorship. So she is gonna go into the supply closet, of course. She finds some hidden files. She's got a secret mission in there. Gets on her like spy gear. She's got like a hidden camera, calls in some reinforcements, and the reinforcements are all of our experienced nurses. They really share her vision of lifting everybody up and build out a program that empowers new nurses. So they're gonna teach and mentor and guide, and that helps all the new grad nurses actually shine, and they have that confidence, competence, and community. They're ready.
I love it. This is awesome. Confidence building, compassion, community, just sparked something awesome in me. I feel like we are kindred in a lot of ways. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being here. Guys, the company is Archer Review. My guest is Morgan Taylor. You can follow her on LinkedIn. That is where we connected. And if you're a nurse, nursing student, a medical student, just in the process of getting into one of these healthcare fields and you need support for entering into it or even support during the journey, please reach out to or look up Archer Review for all test prep and just for your companionship. Thank you again for being here. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging with me till the end. I hope you gained some valuable insight into the world of nursing. If today's episode inspired you, Please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear about the amazing work nurses are doing. Let's keep breaking stereotypes and reshaping the narrative together. I'll see you next time.